Oh,
deal, though.
really?
Yeah, I mean, about the
They
field.
are.
We used to have a hawk that came flying around, and he always dove out in that field out there, and he
Yeah.
was catching a gopher or a snake.
Or those squirrels that are so
They're too-
thick on Page Lane.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
these squirrels are so big, they couldn't
Squirrels.
lift them.
Got all our pears last year and.
I told Jerry,
And all our pecans, and we haven't
Oh,
enough this year to
we
share
need-
with them.
she worries about the squirrels and the pecans and everything, and we had so many pecans this year, we begged people to come and get
Yeah,
them. They
this
would
year
not.
was fine, but last year,
Well, I know.
they got them all, and I didn't have any in the freezer.
Oh, you did. You know when last time I had a pecan pie?
Just at Medill.
Betty's.
It's the deal, yeah. Well, they were our pecans too. We sent them to her.
Mariella didn't make a pecan pie with your pecans.
That's your problem, man. You may have one in the morning when you wake up.
Yeah, right.
Quite frankly, I can't remember her ever making a pecan
I
pie.
don't know if
It
I
hadn't been
have.
very long since I made a pecan
No,
pie.
she couldn't.
You know, for years, Jerry,
No, we have
you
a
know how
contest, see who can make one fastest.
his mother made, well, your mother made the best pies, and every time, I guess I went there a lot at Thanksgiving, and she had these beautiful pecan pies, you know, and I just,
I never had a
the
pecan
idea
pie.
of pecan pie just did not sound good to me. I never tried it,
You don't
ever.
like-
I've tried it since, and I wondered why I missed this all that time, you know.
Jerry
those
kept
were
telling you
good.
they weren't any good.
Well, I never had a piece of her pecan pie either, ever.
You never had your mother's?
Oh, she'd make Bob Andy and
Oh, at the end there, she was doing
All
blue,
that junk.
purple and blue pies, and,
cake with kraut.
you know, they'd have
Mayonnaise.
sauerkraut and pickles
She
in
never
it.
made a crowd cake.
Ibby did it, I think.
I know.
I
Man,
didn't
he's
get
the.
it. I
It
don't
was
get
good
it.
till I found the kraut in it.
You
Man,
thought it was coconut.
Manny's cake was good.
They do anything. to
Maybe
fruit.
this is a long strand of coconut.
You know, it tastes like chicken. Well, let's eat chicken instead of all this other stuff.
Hey, I'm gonna start calling you when he gets all these questions. I'll ask him something about your mom. He says, I don't know. And I said,
What?
well, what? I
I
don't know.
know.
It just seems like it comes up so often where I'll ask you something about your mom and you'll say, I don't know. And
I what? I just hate it when you do that. You make this stuff up.
Oh,
What would I
I'm
not
not
know about it? She's my mother.
What her pecan pie tastes like.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't know that.
It was very
You must
sweet.
know
I don't
what
know
you do with that
what,
oatmeal
I don't know
cookie
what
recipe.
the best Andy one is.
All right,
either.
Mariella, I'm gonna give you
Best
an
Andy was
assignment then.
just like a
You
custard.
can, I'll give you an assignment.
with a
If you're gonna
name.
talk to his sister about stuff like that, find out what happened to that coconut, that,
Oatmeal recipe.
oatmeal cookie recipe.
I've got a couple of recipes that, every time I find a new oatmeal one, I'll make it just, and Jim thinks this is close to it,
Yeah.
Jim likes this, but not the recipe.
I don't remember her ever making oatmeal raisin cookies.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
she did.
They were like
You know,
that.
I don't remember them being as great as James does.
Well, they probably weren't, but they were pretty good at the time.
And,
You like the
I doubt
potato
that she had a
pancakes.
recipe.
No,
That's
no.
it.
Huh?
She probably didn't.
Yeah. I don't think she probably did, really.
you like the potato pancakes, and we've
I
never
do,
quite
and
gotten
there was
But
no
that was not a
recipe for
recipe
those.
either.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't a
Well, I
recipe.
like that,
Is that like what you've made?
I tried,
The pancakes?
I like those.
yeah.
Potato patties.
Yeah.
not
out of
shredded.
the mashed
Well, she
potatoes,
makes,
right?
Yeah.
she makes
Yeah,
some
she
very
used to
good
make 'em.
Yeah.
potato pancakes, but they're green and they're very.
What's-
And I
Because it's
like
got parsley.
Mariella's because they have parsley, right? There's some parsley.
But
I
they're
love
not,
those.
Those
they're
are
totally
grated.
different.
Yeah.
They're not
They're
mashed
not
Good taste.
potatoes.
at all like the ones Mom made.
No.
No, they're runny
She
when
made
you
them.
pour them in.
after
Yeah.
she got
Wait,
through
which
frying
one?
those potatoes,
Mariella
she'd take
makes
it.
them.
No,
They're
we'd have
Hey, your
mashed
mom's
potatoes
recipe.
Yeah.
on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's right,
She
man.
Well,
had
then
it.
maybe
Yeah,
Tuesday,
mashed
she'd make
potatoes and
the
onion.
leftover mashed
And just
potatoes
fry.
into pancakes.
browned them.
Potato pancakes.
They were
And
thin.
I don't know
That's
what she
Jerry
put in
wanted.
it, but they
She
were-
cut them real thin.
Mariella tried, and all Mariella did was make the mashed
Oh.
potatoes into patties and put them in the frying
Well, I
pan, but
put
they,
some onion and I
but
put,
they fell apart. There was
I
nothing
know.
holding
And
them
put some
together.
flour in there.
And
I
egg.
did, I put
Cornmeal or
eggs, I
something.
did it with the egg.
Well,
Flour
it wasn't the same.
I know. Well, I didn't have the chicken living in the backyard to get his eggs that fresh.
Chicken.
You wring its neck. You ever wring a chicken's neck?
Oh.
I did not, but it was,
Chop it off
I
with
was
an
telling you
axe.
about Doc Martin. Did you see the episode where Aunt Joan killed a chicken and the Doc Martin almost died?
How did she kill it?
She just said, "Oh, Martin, get over it."
Well, my grandmama used to chop them with an axe, I think, head off with an
Well-
axe, I think, or ring them.
Aunt Bessie used to get the
Swing
chicken,
it.
Ring it.
and she'd swing it in the air around like
Yeah,
that.
my grandmother did
And
that
with the
too.
head was in her hand, and the chicken
Oh.
flopping and walking around.
I always did better. I killed them for Mama a lot, but I put them under a hoe handle and pull it off.
Ooh,
A what?
Hoe handle.
ooh.
Pull it
Ooh.
off.
Yeah, put the chicken's neck on it and then take his legs and pull it. If you got your feet on that hoe
Why don't
handle,
you just chop
that
it
neck's
Why don't you shoot him?
Then he'd stick the bill in his mouth, say, "I got it finished."
Flop around.
yeah, it'd
Did
flop.
your brother ever do this?
No.
No, no. She knew
In
to do
fact,
it.
you know, have you ever smelled
And
a chicken being plucked with wet feathers? Wow.
They boil the water and
It
and
clears a
then
room,
what
I tell you, that odor is terrible.
I bet it
what would
is.
they would pull the feathers out when they're wet?
Well, they would put it in a pot of
hot
hot
water.
water.
Oh,
After they
yeah.
were dead. Put
Yeah.
them in there, then the feathers would come
I
out.
think they're dead.
I have a funny story about that. My boss shot a goose for Christmas one time,
Yeah.
and he just couldn't get those dang feathers, the little ones.
Well, they
Yeah.
burn them.
Yeah.
So he was out there in the garage with one of those propane torch
Oh,
things,
no.
trying to burn those little
God.
feathers off.
Oh.
I've seen Mama do that with the chicken, hold it over the
Oh, really?
stove,
The
you know,
barrel.
after they
The
get it out.
barrel.
Oh.
Get most of them out.
Terrible
Did she do
smell.
this in the kitchen?
No, she did it
Yeah, no,
outside.
she'd do all that outside, but the stove, you know, if she had a
But
few.
in your
Just blood all
backyard?
over the kitchen.
In the roses.
I know, I can't imagine. Where would I burn the feathers off of
They
a
made-
chicken
she
back
had the
there?
best roses.
She is, you know,
Hey,
on the air
most of
base
this
they
crowd think
burn.
chicken comes.
They have
Right.
that barrel that
Oh.
they burn, and they she
Wrapped
just
in
has
cellophane.
fire in there
You
and
mean like for trash day or
Yeah.
something?
Look
Yeah.
at that.
Years
See
ago.
what he's doing.
newspaper.
Oh,
He's
photograph.
been doing it all night.
I
Yeah.
know it. Last night was when he should have been.
I know. I thought I was going to get a repeat performance.
You're gonna have people pay to see
He
that?
had him just cracking up last night.
Oh, it wasn't that bad.
Your mother and dad was the highlight of the show last night.
I could have told bigger stories on your mother.
Not and lived.
And so we're here tonight.
Trying to get a story or
I
two.
did-
Round
I-
two. Huh?
Not gonna
I
happen.
did just meet her briefly before she got a new car, and Marilyn was gonna go to Europe. And so Meryl asked me to drive her to the airport with her
Oh,
mother.
God. Yeah.
And we went down, of course, they're always late,
That was
so we were late,
63.
you know, and
We knew each other since 60 or 59.
I didn't know your mother.
You didn't know my
I
mother.
didn't know her like I know her.
You didn't
Anyway,
know her.
we were late and she was gonna miss the plane, and she did miss the plane. But we dropped her off, and her mother and me came back up the coast, Highway 1. And we got about to where old Malibu is, and she just, she says, "Look the other way if you want. I've gotta get this girdle off."
No, didn't she say, "Excuse me, Jerry, look the other way"? I mean, she's so polite about it.
And all of a sudden I saw the furs went back to the back seat and dress came up, one leg up on the dash. And then she said, "Oh, that feels good." And she started screaming. This is a little more than I bargained for.
She wasn't modest at all.
And even years later, we went over there. We may have been married then, and we went over to her house, and there was a photo on the lanai on a table, and I looked at it and I said, "Who is this guy?" I just couldn't figure it out. It was a guy laying in the side patio on a lounge chair with just trunks on. And it was her mother.
Sunbathing. No, yeah, but the bad part about that was the house next door is 2-story, and Brian would get up there and look at my mother in the backyard.
Well, I thought he was looking at a guy.
And I would tell her, Mom, you can't do that. That kid next door is looking down in the
And she said-
backyard.
She says, I know.
She said she didn't care. He hadn't seen it by now. He needed to or something.
Oh my goodness.
Your mother must have been a character.
Yeah.
Her son-in-law was.
Actually, she and Jerry really got along well.
Yeah.
They would get, and who knows why? Because she was
Well, I'll tell you
never
one
on
reason.
time, and you were always
It was
on
about
time.
10 years before I knew she was drunk.
Well, she wasn't. She wasn't when she took that girdle off.
I used to stop by every Wednesday night after we stayed open at Chern's on Wednesday night till 9. I'd stop by and Meryl was in school someplace,
Arizona.
and I talked to her mother, and she wouldn't even pretend. I didn't know she was drinking really, but she would say, "Excuse me," and then there was a bar over here, and she'd go like this. And she'd come back and sit down. And said, I don't think that lady's drinking.
But then
Why,
she'd
she's
tell-
not even married.
I know. Then she'd tell him another story about meeting the Queen or something.
No, it was years before I thought there's a rose at the back door going to the back patio, and the Queen Elizabeth had given her that rose when she was in England. So I just bought it all.
It was just named Queen Elizabeth. It wasn't from the Queen.
And we had, who did
That
we
says
have?
a lot about my brother, you know.
It does, as much about him as her.
Yeah.
That's right.
Really? Well, I furnished the whole living room though from Sharon's.
I know, I
My
almost
father
had to
says-
turn you into my
My
dad.
father said, Jesus, where's this bill from? And I said, well, your wife wanted us furniture. She says, well, we don't need any furniture. And she said, yes, we do. And I said, okay. So I ordered it. But we had somebody, like a strangler around town. What was that thing where a guy
I think
jumped
it was-
over
Yeah.
he jumped over the back wall and went to the door and knocked, and he
It
says,
was the back door.
yeah, he says, is Mariella here? And her mother says,
He's dressed in a raincoat, his face is all covered.
and she just left walking to the high school.
You can catch her if you go.
If you try to go this way, you can catch her.
She did. And I mean, it's true because my brother was a little boy and he told me she really did that. And I said, don't you realize who? I think it was Johnny Jenkins.
Oh, you don't know
John
that.
Jenkins.
Yes. it
In my
was.
class?
Yeah, he was
He
weird.
was kind of a weasel-looking guy.
See,
I didn't know
he
him.
was weird.
I didn't know him at all.
I don't
was
know, I
really
mean, he
ill.
just had the look about him.
Yeah, and his
He
dad.
looked kind of like a weasel.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's
Well,
what it was.
he didn't catch her.
And my brother even grabbed the raincoat and said, "Oh, you're Uncle Don" or something, you know, because he thought it was Uncle
So
Don.
he didn't have anything underneath there, so.
I don't know. It's so out of it. Strange things. Yeah, we do have a few. Are you running that camera, Donna?
He told me today
Oh,
that,
Justin, that's a bad one. Grandma's gonna get you.
he told me today he had 4 hours left. I guess he's
Yeah.
gonna use it
What is
all.
it? Is it a recording? Or
Yeah.
is it a movie?
Both. Yeah. Names and faces,
Fingerprint.
voices, all will be
He's making a
revealed.
movie to
May
be
have
out
to change your wheel.
next fall.
Oh, Lord. Well, what year was that? I don't remember that.
We weren't married.
Oh, no, I was in high school.
Well, I might have been gone by then.
The Johnny Jenkins?
Well, he
thing?
was in my class.
Yeah. Well, they did live down the street on Camino
Was
Caleo.
this when
And
he would
was
have been in
always
high
out
school?
in the front yard when we go to school, and he was creepy.
Well, when did we start going together? I was already from Cal Baptist.
Yeah, we didn't date much till I was about, oh, I remember when it was the year that Charlene Ray was killed,
I know it.
and
No, I
didn't
remember
know him
that.
that
Well,
well.
I don't know if I remember it or just Mom and them told me about it.
That would have been, what year would that have
Well,
been?
David
Fifty-something.
had my old Chevy, '56 Chevy, because he and Mary Ann and Kathy and I double dated one night, and I don't know if she'd been killed by then or not. I didn't know the sister,
Yeah.
but
Well, you and I were going out, and I remember we had, early or something. It was a drive-in or something we're going to, and I didn't know him all that
no,
well.
actually we drove out to a
Tepiscate.
broccoli field that had been picked, and we drove out in the
Turn the
middle of the
sound up.
broccoli field, and it was dark and quiet and romantic.
Moon was
No,
out.
no. We were driving around, and then he drives out on Tepiscate Road or something, just kind of talking, killing time. And I thought, I wonder what's in his glove compartment. I don't know this guy real well. And
He's
I
got
got
a
so
raincoat.
afraid. Because I had been
I use that
questioned a
knife for
lot on
gardening.
that. Huh?
What?
What?
What'd you say?
I use that
wasn't-
knife for gardening, but I didn't have a knife in there.
Ooh, that was horrible. But I had been there the night before she was murdered, so I was, called into the police department. And
They never did do anything about finding anything?
There's someone that confessed.
Well, I
It
thought
was
there
like
was.
the Mexican mafia, and some guy confessed to having done it. That it was just kind of a.
Well,
He-
Random thing or something?
Well,
was dead
he
after-
liked her. He liked her, and she had rebuffed him. That
Hmm.
was the story. I don't know if I believe it or not.
But he was dead when they all
Yeah.
this came out.
Oh, I
He'd been
see.
in prison.
Yeah.
Well, they
Somebody
thought the old
did.
man had something to do with it.
Yeah, they did it
Yeah.
at the, and Kathy talked about that, It's funny because Kathy never talked, Kathy is the sister of this girl, and she never talked about it, and then all of us were up in Oregon on a, just in the last 15 years, and that was the first time we had talked about it, but never when Kathy was around. And about 15 years ago was the first time she ever talked about it with us, and she heard our points of view, and we heard her, from what it was like to be her experiencing it. And she didn't realize how many of us had been called in, or,
Right.
what.
What, was she a young girl?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, her
high
sister
school.
was like,
She was stabbed 80 or 90 times.
yeah. She
Well,
had gone
when-
to the movies, and her mother and father were divorced, and she came home, she went with a group of girls to the movie, and I had been at the house when Kathy left a note for her mother saying, I'm gonna spend the night with Carol, and then Charlene had left a note saying that she was going to the movie and about what time she'd be home. So obviously, the mother was expected to get home first, because the notes had been left. And the mother had gone out on a date, because, she was guess they'd been divorced just a couple years or something. And so you knew that was the setting. And so the family that took the girls to the movie dropped Charlene off. They saw that she got in the house, and whoever it was in the house. and-
Waiting for her.
Behind the door.
killed her. Yeah, oh, yeah. We all were taken through that house, and we saw where the body was, and there was popcorn on the floor, and it was
When they took
traumatic.
you in and questioned you, were you by yourself, or did you have your folks or your attorney or?
My parents were in Europe. My aunt was there, and
Our religious aunt.
yes, and the policeman came to my door at 6:30 in the morning the following morning.
6:30.
The aunt fainted.
And my aunt comes back to get me. I was asleep, of course, 6:30 in the morning. And she came back to get me. She says, Mariella, there's a policeman at the door and he wants to talk to you. And I was thinking of all the things I've been doing. Whatever is this for?
What has Jerry told him?
And it turned out that he had worked at the inn at one time, it was Mizell Funk. And he asked me if I knew Charlene. I said yes, and he told me that she had been killed the night before. And I mean, that was so shocking, and he took me, not right then, but he did take me, he says, I didn't know that I was going to be going there, I don't think, and then we got to the door and he says, you don't mind going through the house, do you? And I guess he was trying to get me to talk about what I last remembered, because I had been there all that day, and wanted to see if I saw anything different. And there were eerie things about it. That morning when I had gone over to their house, the mother and Kathy and Charlene were all sitting on the mom's bed, and Kathy had dreamt that her mother had been killed, and her mother had dreamt that she had been killed, and it was Charlene. I mean, it was eerie stuff, and it was...
Well, her mother worked next door to Chern's at a dress shop, and her hair was gray almost overnight.
Yeah, it really was.
After that happened.
Yeah. And it was, all the way they handled a lot of it. Santa Maria never had anything like that happen, and they brought a FBI from LA, and they really didn't know Santa Maria and the small community, and they mishandled a lot of stuff.
They wouldn't take you through the house now.
Yeah.
No.
I'll tell you another one that they mishandled, and you remember when the gal got raped? And wasn't she engaged to some guy that was in the service?
Which gal?
I can't remember her name, but it seemed
In
like,
Santa Maria?
yeah, it was in Santa Maria, and
You were
they,
living there?
yeah. And
Were you in high school?
I don't remember, I guess I was, but the thing about it is when the paper came out, it said Susie Jones was raped at wherever it was that night. Put her name in there and everything.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, one thing I remember about that, some tourist or somebody passing through evidently had bought a paper, and it was in there, and she wrote a letter to the editor, really chewing them out for putting the
For
girl's name.
putting the girl's name in there.
I remember that letter, or,
Yeah.
and
But Kathy...
what was the guy's name that, you remember that house that Art and I did over in?
Yeah, and,
What was the guy that's name that lived next door?
oh, I don't know. The one you built on...
Silver.
Was it
Silver Lake?
Alexander? Was there an Alexander?
I don't know.
I don't know what the girl's name was, but she was engaged to somebody in the service, I think.
You lived there on that lane?
Oh, no, I thought it might have been his brother.
Siler.
No, I don't know where
Siler?
where it all
Siler.
No, that's just where the house was.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with that. I don't know, they had her somewhere, I don't know where it all took
Mm.
But
place.
did you guys know Silers?
What?
Did you know Penny Silers?
Art Evans and I bought a lot
I
on
didn't.
Siler or I guess it was, I don't know what it
It
was,
was Siler Lane.
and started a house.
Oh.
Well, you finished it, didn't you?
I got out before,
Oh, you did?
yeah.
Well, you
I
know...
remember going over there on Saturdays when you
Huh?
were working. I remember going over there on Saturdays
Well,
when
I
you
was
were
working nights and and I'd get up off Saturday morning at 8 o'clock and he expected me to be out there and work all day and I just couldn't do it. So I got out.
Well, Kathy was really a pretty girl, but she could out-cuss any guy in town or any sailor in the Navy. I mean, she was vulgar but she was. But she was raunchy and she was all of that. And then she contracted cancer. And supposedly she told God that if he would cure the cancer, she would change her life.
She'd live her life for him.
And the cancer went away. I don't know the time frame on this, but, and she was living in Oregon then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she found this church in this little town in Oregon. She built pews.
But Kathy was a very, very intelligent girl.
And she directed the
And
choir.
gifted,
She
artistic.
She put paneling in the church. She, lived across the street from the church. And then she had two girls or three
Two girls.
And they went to Biola in LA and graduated, married guys from Biola. I mean, she was so steeped in that church. And then she's cooled on it now, hasn't she?
Well, she just overdosed everybody with it, She just had gone so extremely.
Yeah.
It was the church where they talk in tongues and all that.
It's a holiness type church.
Yeah. And
Although
she just-
Biola is fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, she's still a very strong believer, but, she just,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
more even
the
now.
thing is though, that her daughters were raised up as Christians. And you wanted to say, did you know your mother knew every foul word? And she wouldn't ever allow that.
When the real trouble started was when we all got out yearbooks.
Stuff that was written in.
Remember the party at Avila Beach?
Well, you didn't tell us
When
about
you
that
did
one.
this.
You didn't tell us about that.
No, she
Anyway,
was,
Kathy didn't like everybody bringing out the yearbook.
Mm.
she was a real liver.
The good old days.
Well, she came here with her daughters on the way down to
Viola.
Biola, and they stayed overnight.